Hello there dear YouTubers, my name is King1993 and today I'll be doing another of the best weapon review for beginner, intermediate and advanced player. And today's Valkyrie will be Himeko or Murata Himeko. Okay, now unlike the previous 1, 2 and 3, these three characters which I have explained, they only had only two types of fighting capabilities, either physical or they are uh, electric or ice damage dealer. Okay, but unlike these three, Himeko actually has all four type of damage dealing systems. For example, this one deals fire damage, this one physical, this one does ice damage, this one does electric damage, again physical, and this one again does fire damage. So there are two fire damage dealers, there are two physical damage dealers, and there are one electric and one ice damage dealer. Okay, now first of all, let's go to this weapon chart. Okay, and select two-handed weapons. Okay, or these are another, this has another name called Claymore, because the same company which make Honkai Impact is also making Genshin Impact, and in those game these weapon are not called two-handed weapons, these are called claymores. Okay, so let's select 2-star. Now this is the weapon which you are going to get by default. Okay, this weapon is you are gonna get by default, and even if you get it by default, do not upgrade it. Okay, instead of upgrading it, if you are a beginner, that is, go to the 3-star weapon. If you play this game for 1 day or a week, okay, then eventually you will get this type of weapon. But even after then, if you do get them, please do not upgrade these two. Why? Because they only contain damage and critical, but they do not have any weapon skill. Any weapon which has weapon skill is more higher priority weapon than the weapon which doesn't contain any type of weapon skill, because if you do multiply the certain factors, such as here as it is written, that it can does 400% more damage, physically speaking 4 times more damage. So if you multiply this 4 with 124, then eventually you will get number of 500 damage. Okay, so if you get 500 damage per every 9 seconds, then that damage dealing is far better than damage which only contains 121 damage per second. So based on that, obviously the one with the weapon skill is far better, and there are these total 3 option in the 3-star level. Okay, and you will get these ones very easily because these one are highly grindable, and you can get them by default because 3-star weapon can be grinded and they are can be grindable by default. Okay, so if you are a beginner player, then skip this 2-star and go to the 3-star, especially if you have these fusion sword EX, hybrid type 16 and hybrid type 27, then definitely upgrade this. Okay, it will benefit you in the long run. Now once you go to level 4, then congratulations, by this point you are now an intermediate player. The first rules of an intermediate player, which differs from the beginners, is that now by this point they will have capabilities to make 4-star weapon, because many of the systems which are not available at the beginning stage, but in the intermediate stage it is available. So in the intermediate stage you will have high capability of getting a 4-star weapon. Now when you do get a 4-star weapon, again remember the same factor, that each 4-star weapon will have an weapon skill, but not all of them will be the same. For example, let's see, there are weapons which are higher damage dealing than the others. How do you measure that? First of all, to understand that there are passive damage dealing and there are active damage dealing. For example, this one is passive damage dealer, okay, but this one is an ice type as well, as it is said attack gain 20% physical damage against frozen enemies. So this weapon is specially made for a special purpose, which seems stupid for me because this weapon can only does high amount of damage to certain enemies, okay, and this weapon uses a physical attack of 450%, rather 4.5% damage, and if you multiply that 4.5 with 183, then definitely you are gonna get, let's see where it is, here it is, 185 into 4.5, definitely you are gonna get 832.5 damage. So that is still a huge damage, okay, and the cooldown is 8 seconds, and the SP needed or special point that is needed to execute it is also extremely low. So at the 4-star level of weapon, you are definitely gonna get a huge benefit, okay. So to remember the instruction which is given here, for example, dealing 3 times of lightning damage, so each attack will have this damage and another additional lightning damage, okay. So there will be also some weapon which will have double weapon skill, okay. Now whether will it be available in this category of weapon or not, I do not know, because this weapon here was not available at the beginning. It is an event weapon, and even though it is a event weapon, the weapon damage category is actually very good enough to consider it a good quality weapon, even though it looks stupid. And these are the weapon which can be easily be grindable. The only problem is it's gonna take long time to grind them. So eventually I had to grind them a lot only for the purpose of collection, but the weapon damage is extremely low and it has huge cooldown, okay. Look at the cooldown, it is 16-second cooldown. Why would I buy something like this? Definitely this is a no for me, okay. So once you have collected this weapon, you might be thinking, okay, it will do in the long run, right? No, the weapon which will definitely help you in the long run are the 5-star weapon. Now in case of 5-star weapon, there is a huge difference between a 5-star weapon and a 4-star weapon. Though 4-star weapon are far better than 3-star weapon in case of beginning to intermediate, that is, but there is still another huge advantage in 5-star weapon which is not available in the 4-star. 5-star weapon are specifically made for certain characters. For example, Swan Lake was meant to be used by Murata Himeko ice version, but eventually what happened was there was another new player or new character available. It was Rosalia, or was it Lilia? Okay, it was Lilia. So Lilia is a physical damage dealer who also sometimes does some ice damage, and when it is equipped on Lilia, eventually it will cause more damage dealing. And not only that, this weapon, for example, also has double weapon skill, basically speaking active and passive. So in active damage skill, there is a huge stuff here. For example, 50% is basically like 0.5, 300 and 500, okay. So total 850%, okay, 850% damage if I were to click this, and the second explosion impair the enemy, lowering defense for 8 seconds, can hold 2 charges, okay, performing, okay. So let's calculate this. If it can does two charges, so basically uh, 8.5 into 2 is basically 17. So 17 times. So if I were to multiply 274 with 17, 274 into 17, then this is the amount of damage it can does. Okay, and especially if this weapon was equipped on a physical damage dealer such as Lilia, then it will do even more damage. So this weapon is specifically made for Murata Himeko, who is a damage dealer, physical damage dealer. And not only that, when ultimate hits, the wielder gains 40% physical damage dealing for and 40% critical damage dealing for 9 seconds. So as you can see, the benefit of the 5-star level weapon is far greater than the 4-star level. Rather, I would even suggest that when you do get a 4-star weapon, please hold on to your crystals and coins, because you will be eventually be able to grind these weapons. Okay, now the question is, what about I said that each weapon are made for each characteristic of characters, right? So where is that? Okay, let's talk about that. For example, this blood dance was specifically made for Rose Himeko. Okay, now which one is Rose Himeko? This one. Okay, Rose Himeko or Blood Rose, whichever you might call it. This Blood Rose or Rose Himeko was specifically happened in an story or chronicle story, and from that place this weapon was available. So basically speaking, this weapon is specifically made for Rose Himeko. Okay, and what about this one? This one I have no idea. This one was available once I have defeated a certain enemy. And what about this one? I got it using the crystals. Okay, and once I got it, I upgraded it immediately, because this weapon is a signature weapon for the Vermilion Knight. Which one is the Vermilion Knight, you might be wondering? This one is the Vermilion Knight. She has the highest damage rate in regarding all of the other Himekos. So as you can see that each of these 5-star weapon are far better. Another one is this one, Ragnir. This Ragnir is a weapon specifically made for Ice Himeko, or the Himeko which does ice damage. So these 5-star weapon are far superior than the 4-star weapon. So do try your best to get the 5-star weapon, because the forge option is available, which wasn't at first. Now if you are an advanced player, that is, then 5-star is obviously a go, because most of these weapons are not available through grinding. Rather, you have to use crystals to buy it. But there is another topic that you must need to consider when buying a 5-star weapon. Go to the 6-star weapon category and see which of the weapon are actually capable of getting into a 6-star weapon. For example, Sleeper's Dream was a 5-star weapon, and specifically Sleeper's Dream was this one, Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty can be upgraded to this Sleeper's Dream. Okay, and Shuhadaku of Uriel, this one was this might of An-Utu. Okay, this might of An-Utu eventually changed to this Shuhadaku of Uriel, and this Surtur is basically this one, this Surtur. This Surtur eventually became the Sixer Surtur. So do consider which type of weapon you are trying to get is a highly advantageous move if you do consider which type of weapon 5-star weapon you are trying to get. So again, let me revise you. If you are a beginner, then do try to get these 3 weapon, and if you are an intermediate player, then whatever option is available, use them. But if you do get a 5-star weapon, then do not upgrade the 4-star weapon because they are mostly useless, and these 5-star weapon are actually far better, even though they would not contain any type of, let's say, characteristic weapon. So, not all of them are characteristic weapon, most of them are characteristic weapon, basically speaking signature weapons. Okay, so even if you get a weapon which is not a signature weapon, it will still do you far better than not getting a 5-star weapon. Another benefit of 5-star weapon, as I have told you, it has double the weapon skill, and at the 6th category, every 6-star weapon was once a 5-star weapon. So if you do try to buy a 5-star weapon, try to see if you can buy these 3. So if you can buy these 3, let's say the Sleeping Beauty, Might of An-Utu, and the Suitor, then definitely try to get those 3 because you can eventually be able to upgrade them to 4-star weapon. Okay, now let's go back to the Murata Himeko character, and there are some issues that I must need to consider or try to mention. Okay, now first of all, let's start with these physical types. Now these physical types was available from the beginning, but the only problem was they didn't have their own story chapters. So as a result, what happened was they had been given a weapon by default, but where did this weapon come from? Uh, there is no data available for it, even though this is a good quality weapon. As you can see here, by reading this description, you still can't get it because we do not know where this weapon comes from. Okay, maybe you can get it from the uh, weapon area some place in this game. I do not know where. Okay, so this is one of the signature weapon of uh, squad major, but even after then I didn't play Murata Himeko squad major in any of the story mode. So this is an outdated version, and okay, Battlestorm is an outdated version. Okay, and what about Valkyrie Triumph? Valkyrie Triumph is in the same category. This is the main signature weapon for her, but the only problem is she herself didn't use this weapon in any of the character story mode. So this is another outdated option. But this 1, 2, 3, and 4, this 4 is not an outdated option because I did play them. For example, Craig Massar has this a special weapon, Ragnir. Ragnir is specially made for Craig Massar because this one specifically does ice related damage. So if this one is equipped in Craig Massar, it will deal his type of ice related damage. So if you do try to get this for Craig Massar, then it is the best option for her. Okay, now another one will be this one, Scarlet Fusion. Scarlet Fusion, I also got this signature weapon from the story chapter. So basically speaking, if you do try to use this weapon, then it will do damage. But even though it is a signature weapon for her, I still do not recommend this weapon for the Scarlet Fusion, because Scarlet Fusion is an electric damage dealer. So for Scarlet Fusion, I suggest some other weapon. Any of the weapon which contains lightning damage dealing, do give equipped that weapon for her. For example, let's see if I can find any, because I myself do not actually dig through this part, because I actually okay, this one, max storm surge, okay, or I'm not even gonna pronounce this name. It will break my teeth, I think. So this watermelon, I think if you do play the story, then eventually Dr. Tesla is gonna say that this is a watermelon weapon. So this watermelon weapon is actually the Murata Himeko or Scarlet Fusion's best weapon. Okay, this weapon actually does electric damage, and if you or lightning damage. So if you use this one, on Scarlet Fusion, so if you use that watermelon weapon on Scarlet Fusion, then you will have the highest amount of electric damage dealing. Okay, so do remember that. And what about these two? Well, these two are of the similar type, so giving both of them the same weapon will do the same thing. Okay, but even after then, let me show you another thing. For example, Blood Rose Himeko. For Blood Rose Himeko, this was not the main signature weapon. The main signature weapon was this 5-star Blood Dance. Okay, this was Blood Rose Himeko's main signature weapon. If you do give it to her, I doubt it will does the same amount of damage, because it doesn't have any fire damage related issues. So issues as in it doesn't have any good fire damage relating stuff. So for that reason, if you give both of these two the same weapon, same fire type of weapon, such as this Surtar or Shuhadaku of Uriel. So if you give these two, okay, to Blood Rose Himeko or Vermilion Knight, it will does a huge amount of damage. Okay, but what about the Slipper Stream? The Slipper Stream, I do suggest that if you ever use Himeko, especially these two, then do give these two the Slipper Stream, because Slipper Stream for these two will be far better than giving them their own signature weapon, because their own signature weapon might not be available. Okay, so do consider that. So this will be the way in which you will be able to know which type of weapon you should be giving to them. Okay, now in case if you are wondering what about this grinding option, okay, this forge option was not available, but after a certain while they do give this forge option. So in according to that way, if you go to the forge option, then select, let's say, Craig Massard, the ice type dealing damage dealer, then you will see that these are the weapon which will be available. Now before saying anything else, do look at this, that these two were not supposed to be here, but because they are up here, I'm gonna mention them later. Okay, first of all, see which of the 5-star weapon is actually easy to grind. Obviously not this, because in order to make this you have to get this one. So getting this one, you must definitely need to use crystals, and for this one is the same, this one is also the same. So what about these two? Okay, these two is also the same problem. You must need to do a lot of grinding to get them, even if you are an advanced player. If you are an intermediate player, then you can get these three very easily, because they only cost Honkai piece, and Honkai piece are far easier to get. Even though I don't have them, that is because I am not playing those missions anymore where I can get Honkai cube. But what about these two? As you can see, these two are highly grindable. That is because these two can be easily get by the use of this anti-entropy emission code. And because of that, if you were to get this any of these two, then good luck on using them, because these are a 5-star weapon and a very good one. Especially I think this one, because it has bleeding, and bleeding does continuous physical damage. And what about this? This one also does physical damage, but this one's skill can only get stronger if the Valkyrie characters can use uh, time fracture. Okay, so if your character cannot use time fracture, then this weapon is not gonna do that much good for you. But if you do have Kiana, the character who, if you do use that Kiana, which one? Okay, no. Let's see, divine prayer. Okay, if you have divine prayer in your, let's say, the first position, then the leadership position of divine prayer is eventually going to give your where it is, your Greg Master or whichever Himeko character you have, it will give an advantage time factor, and eventually that time factor is going to cause this weapon to become stronger. So if you do plan on using this, and if your Himeko is not capable of doing time fracture, then use divine prayer to get the time factor and making the weapon far stronger. Okay, so that is done with Great Master. Now what about Vermilion Knight? The best weapon for Vermilion Knight is this one, Uriel. Okay, this Uriel is actually the best weapon for her, and the good thing is I have the exact Uriel. So as a result, what happened is I am actually getting large quantity of damage from it. So do remember that. And if you do not have this Uriel, then this too is also an option. Now for Blood Rose, again this Surtur is actually better option than Uriel. I do not know the reason, but if you do get Surtur instead of Uriel, do upgrade Surtur. Or if you do get Uriel instead of Surtur, then do upgrade Uriel. Okay, but in case if you are wondering about these two, then you can upgrade this one if you have Blood Rose, that is. And let's see, for Battlestorm, as I have said before, that Battlestorm is an old character, and for that old character nothing special was released. So as you can see, the number here are extremely low, not even 2000, rather it is 1500 is the max. So this is an indication that if you do use her, you will not get most of the benefit out of her, because Battlestorm is an old character. As a result, a specific weapon is not made for her. Now Scarlet Fusion. For Scarlet Fusion, I have already told you about the watermelon weapon. That watermelon weapon is far better for her than these ones, and the only problem with the watermelon weapon is that watermelon weapon is always not available. So do get one of these, and you will be able to make a good quality use out of her. And if you do get any of these weapon, do upgrade it, because it is far better than this 4-star weapon. And finally, Valkyrie Triumph. Again, she's an old character, so most of the weapon are useless on her, because majority of the people do not play Valkyrie Triumph or Battlestorm anymore. Okay, so this is basically my conclusion on which type of weapon you should be getting for which type of Himekos. and which Himeko are the most useless one. That will be these two. Battlestorm and Valkyrie Triumph are the most useless Himekos. Okay, so anyway, if you like this video,